Today I'll be starting a new series that will be focusing on how I overcame the lies that I believed. And you know what? I believed a lot of lies. In these lies that I'll be going into, there is such a thin line between truth and falsity, between accuracy and inaccuracy. So I'm actually quite excited to delve into this and share how I overcame these lies that I believed. The first lie that I'm going to expose today is the following. I am who I am because of the fruit that my life has produced. Now that sounds correct, but it is actually false. Why? Because what it is actually saying, what it actually means is this. My identity that refers to I am who I am, that is my identity, is based on my performance, is based on what I produce. So if I didn't produce that, I wouldn't be who I am. Now, let me give you an example. Let's say an apple tree died before it had an opportunity to produce apples. What would the identity of that tree be? It would still be an apple tree. But then it didn't produce apples. It will still be an apple tree. Why? Because an apple tree is an apple tree not because it produces apples, but because it was created to produce apples. And that's the key distinction. So even though that apple tree didn't produce apples, it did not change the identity of that tree. It was still an apple tree. What confused me was a misunderstanding of what Jesus said when he said, by their fruit you will know them. By their fruit you will recognize them. And let's make this personal. What Jesus was saying is your fruit that you produce will cause others to identify who you are. But he didn't say, by your fruit you will know yourself. He said, by your fruit other people will know who you are. Now, how am I supposed to recognize who I am, my identity, if my identity is not based on the fruit that I produced? That's a very good question. Your identity is not based on your fruit. Your identity is based on what your Creator says about you. What He says you are, who He says you are, is your identity. Your fruit is the expression of your identity. It's not the qualification of your identity. For many years, I was struggling to start the process of writing my first book. And I realized that the root of this procrastination was this lie that I believed. I believed that I needed to write a book in order to be an author. But then my mind shifted. I realized that I don't write books because I want to be an author. I write books because I am an author. When I accepted the reality and the truth that I am an author, even before I wrote books, it became so natural for me to express who I am. And I wrote my first book in 1 month. And that book was named Legacy, Master Reset Legacy. I want to conclude this video by referencing a Bible character named Gideon. In Judges chapter 6, verse 12, the angel of the Lord appeared to Gideon and declared the following words, "The Lord is with you, you mighty warrior." God says through the angel that Gideon is a mighty warrior. Now you must understand, the fruit that Gideon's life produced up to that point was completely the opposite of a mighty warrior. In fact, he saw himself as a victim. He saw himself as least in his father's house. He was running away from his enemies. He was threshing wheat in a winepress. When God spoke those words over him, he basically was laughing on the inside. He was thinking, what are you talking about? Do you know who I am? Have you seen the fruit that my life produced? And you're telling me I am a mighty warrior? That's absolutely ridiculous. In fact, he said, if the Lord is with us, why has all these things happened to us? Why are we victims of our circumstances if the Lord is with us? And if you read the story, you will see that gradually Gideon started to take hold and receive the identity that the Lord spoke over him. Because the Lord knows Gideon. The Lord knows who He has created Gideon to be. And then you will read the end of the story. He actually became a mighty warrior. He actually expressed the fruit of a mighty warrior. But he first had to receive the word that the Lord spoke over his life. Some of you watching this video right now have had a sense in your heart for many years that the Lord is calling you to become something that's completely different to the fruit that you've produced in your life. In fact, you feel like if you should share this with someone else, they will actually laugh at you because it's so different to what your life has produced up to this point. But let me tell you, if the sense in your heart is truly what God has placed there, go for it. Don't harden your heart. I'm not saying that you need to go full steam ahead without confirming whether or not that sense in your heart is from God. I'm saying go on this process of confirmation to see and validate that that is actually the Lord speaking to you, and the Lord will confirm it. And when He confirms it to you, I really want to encourage you to go for it. Because if the Lord spoke that over your life, the Lord will empower you to manifest that reality. The Lord will empower you to bear fruit that is consistent with who you are. So don't believe the lie that says, I am who I am because of the fruit that I produce. No, don't believe that. Your identity is not based on the fruit that your life has produced. Your identity is based on who God says you are. And like I said earlier, your fruit is not the qualification of your identity. Your fruit is the expression of your identity.